Tea Sippers, it's your favorite girl, A Tru Lady, and it's definitely time for another episode of CTT Insider. And I'm sitting here with Afro Sensei.
Hello.
Yes, welcome. So, I mean, you have been doing a lot of work. Explain to people, you know, where did you get your start and where you are now.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I'm from Alexandria, grew up here. Started taking actually piano lessons when I was about 9, so I've been doing music for a long time. I was in the band in school, did a little music in college, just minored in music. I didn't start making my own music until about 2014. And at first it was just like instrumental stuff, like instrumental electronic beats, stuff like that. And then just over time it kind of changed into what it is now with just like more traditional sort of songs.
So where did you get your name, Afro Sensei?
I was just wanted something that kind of sounded, had like a ring to it. Like if people think of like things like abracadabra. So something that could kind of roll off the tongue. Also always been a bit of like an anime fan. Like watched a lot of like Dragon Ball Z like growing up. So I wanted to combine that also with like Afro, like sort of nodding to like Afro-centric. You know, so mixing like Afro-futuristic imagery and Afro-centric imagery within like all of the music and all the imagery. So
all right, as well as like incorporating anime music and all that, you know, just really making it yourself,
right?
Who you are.
Yeah.
So that definitely explains like a lot of your videos that you put out. You know, they have those you're actually like telling a story. With your videos.
Like at least the two of them out of the three that's been off this album, like When I Fall was definitely had a concept to it of the story. Because with that video was like three actually African gods that were in that video. Reference to one was played by James. It's Shango. It's like the god of like male sexuality and things like that. And then the other one was played by Petra, Ocean, who's like the goddess of like love and fertility, things like that. And also the one I played at the end, if you hadn't seen the video, when I come out in the water at the end, Olakan, which is like the god of like wisdom. And like to me, the video is supposed to be like a transformation. Like I saw one place where if you see the video where we're playing chess, and I'm sort of like dressed in all black and white, very kind of harsh makeup, body language very stiff, playing somebody who's very like closed off to themselves. And at the end, you sort of wake up and have like a new sort of sense of self.
So that's where it comes like in the video. You're rising out of the water.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like your own type of baptism in a way.
Sort of, yeah. Yeah.
So when you're sitting down, because you make your beats, you record yourself, you produce yourself, you mix and master as well?
I have someone else mastered. I usually do everything but master usually.
Oh, okay. So like what is a process with Afro Sensei when you from the beat on down to recording the song? Like, what's your process?
Sometimes I have like a melody and I won't have a beat. Other times I have a beat but won't have a melody yet. So I may make something and while something will come to me for as a melody, I'll go back and try to start writing to it. Other times I have a melody but I won't have a beat. I think it was Joy Fantastique actually, where I had the chords in my head, and I had like the intro part. But I wasn't sure what else it was going to lead to. I wanted something that sounded big and had like a lot of vocals too, like almost like a wall of sound. And so I started off with just the chords, and then I kind of built it from the chords, and I did the vocals, and I doubled the vocals, and then I went back and sort of laid them again, so it had that big kind of like explosion sort of sound to it.
And that's the record when you filmed the Loft, right?
Right. Yeah. That's that video. Yeah. That one was more like performance. Yeah.
I actually like that video, and I like your last video that you released as well.
The push pull. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. To me, that one. I think that one, to me, at least at this point, I think that's probably my favorite, or it came out the best.
Yeah.
Just being out there in the woods, and it was hot.
Y'all were literally in the woods. So explain the whole entire concept of the video for Push Pull. I know it's like a couple.
Well, sort of, but it's to me. I mean, that one uses more like voodoo sort of imagery in terms of like, because you have Baron, who's played by Kelvin, in the top hat and the cane and the cigar and stuff like that, and you also have Jericho, who's playing his wife Maman. Then you have Jordan, who's playing Geet, who's also another voodoo sort of deity. And then you have the bride, who's played by Tamika. And to me, it basically was showing sort of like the sort of corrosive effects of like sort of internalized homophobia in a sense. Because someone goes out in their closet and they end up getting married, that they sort of become infected, quote unquote, and it affects the bride and affects everybody around them.
Wow.
So that's why we look kind of demented.
Okay, I get it now. Okay, I definitely, because I was like, man, I wonder where Kev was going with this. Even though I like the video because the visuals, the movement, you know, it's a story, and then you're drinking the poison, and you just fall back.
And with them, it's like they in their own sort of way of trying to like wake us up to it, but then they're the kind of like the characters that are kind of they drink and they smoke, they kind of. I guess you call them like anti-heroes in a way if you want to get all comic book about it. Okay. And so they're trying to kind of get us to realize things about ourselves, but like in sort of a subversive sort of way.
Right.
So,
So like, you know, this is what would be the possible outcome. You know, if you're living closeted, not being who you truly want to be, and you can affect everybody because her face was clustered, your face, and I mean, and it's also like. Because weren't you having like a fight scene with Jordan in the video?
Sort of. It was like, he was sort of like trying to, another thing, sort of awakening sort of trying to happen, but it was like sort of we were circling each other but not really seeing each other. Yeah. And then you sort of had me in the white tux and then me in the black shirt, sort of like almost like alter egos. Yeah.
So it's like I'm battling myself at
the
end of the day.
Yeah.
But I mean, so definitely. You know, you talk about, you know, homosexuality and, you know, that's who you are. That is a part of Afro Sensei. So how do you make that come out and about so people can, like, respect it? Like,
I think, to me, especially with this current album, the whole thing was just sort of playing on androgyny, which I kind of started with the last EP, with the BP with the photos I took with Jesse. And it was sort of like trying to mix it, sort of masculine and feminine. And do it in a way that was kind of like sort of challenging, but also kind of playful too at the same time.
Yeah.
And also actually that draws on like another African deity, Asamari, which I went to the red for the album cover. I came across this his mythology, or actually him or her, because he actually, according to mythology, he lives half a year as a man, half a year as a woman.
Okay, wow.
And so his special color is red. So when I saw that, I kind of went to that when came time to do the album photos. Yeah. And even with the Fantastique video, wearing like the rainbow.
With the red, the real with the veil, and everything.
Yeah, so yeah, I think with that, it's sort of like encouraging people to sort of realize that, you know, I think most men, whether they're gay, bi, straight, whatever, have masculine and feminine within them.
Right.
It just, a lot of times we get taught to sort of like downplay or like not like the feminine aspects of ourselves.
Right, exactly. I feel like, I mean, we all, male and female, we all have that in us. We all have those traits within us, and it's okay. Yeah, it's okay to embrace yourself. Okay.
And you know, So I mean, I exaggerated obviously by the way I dress, but that's the point.
Right.
Through all the sort of imagery is like a lot of what's happening. So.
Definitely, and I definitely think you are getting your point across and making people aware, like, and accept it, open your eyes to it, and acknowledge it. So, you also performed at Pride this year. Yeah. That was big. Kev, you did a great performance.
Thank you.
I mean, the dancers. I mean, you were interacting with the crowd. It was really good. I really enjoyed watching it.
Thank you. That was a lot of work with especially.
Well, how did you feel? Because like, y'all rehearsed.
I mean, that day of, it was like so I got there ahead of time, and like I was nervous, but it wasn't like the scare kind of nervous. It was more like kind of the focus sort of nervous, because really, honestly, once the first song got on the way and we started dancing, it was kind of like I never blacked out before, but it was like I kind of we started one place, and then by the time I knew what was happening, it was over with.
Right. Oh yeah, you was done. You was like, oh, I was in the zone. I thought I was still in the gym.
So yeah, I mean, but yeah, it was definitely a great day, especially performing at that event. You know, because everybody works so hard, and you know, between James and Tamika coming up with the choreography. Right,
exactly.
You know,
next year we want Kev on stage before the big finale at night. You know, because I definitely believe so many other people needed to see their performance because, again, you put all that work into it, the effort into it, and the dancers, you know, making it come to life. You know, that's important. That's all a part of showmanship. You know, so you've also had other performances as well.
Yeah, it was at Culture Fest. Yes, which was very hot. But
it was so hot.
Yeah, so that's one. And then recently, something started here in town by a local poet, Paul Crim, shout out to Paul Crim, the poet. Who actually I knew him from way back because he's one of my brother's friends growing up. So he started a spoken word night. And it's the second time it happened. The second month it's happened is this month. And this event was like a Hall of Nights theme. So I performed there actually both times. So
good. How does the crowd respond when you do your performance?
This particular crowd, that crowd was very into it. Everybody was singing along to the song, so that was always a good feeling. Another performance, it depends. I think sometimes I can see people into it. Sometimes I can see people kind of just sort of reacting to me.
Right, because you're dressed up and you're in your full makeup, your face and makeup, and you're here, but you're against yourself. But I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Afro Sensei outside of this, so it's just like, what? You know, when I very, very first when I saw the photos with Jesse, and I was like, this is not the same guy that did us. But you know, it's time, you know, you see that, okay, like, yes, okay, you see, like, this is this person, this is, so, like, in being your normal self and Afro Sensei, like, how do you make those two combine at certain times?
Well, I think it's certainly it's a part of my personality that you see on stage or in videos. I think it's just sort of like feeling, sort of deciding what I feel comfortable sort of expressing publicly. And sort of learn how to put that in a song, or in this case, to me, this album was like the individual songs tell a story. Actually, go back further. It started off as, it wasn't supposed to be an album in the beginning. It's supposed to be just let the beat breathe. It's supposed to be just let the beat breathe. When I Think of You, and then Joy Fantastique.
Right.
That was supposed to be it. But then I started listening to When I Think of You and Joy Fantastique, and I thought, between these two songs, I felt like there was like a story that you could tell in between those two, because it's talking about the same thing, but they're talking about it in very different stages of like this relationship. So on this one, I really wanted to tell a story with each individual song, and I wanted to tell the story to the overall album. So listen to the album from beginning to end, or even from the end to the beginning. It really it takes you through a story.
So what story can we possibly look for when we're listening to this?
Really, it's like kind of just like the arc of like a relationship from the early stages, like sort of like infatuation, sort of like figuring out how real the situation is, being sort of afraid to sort of express vulnerability. That's what When I Fall was kind of about. And then you sort of fall into the hedonistic side of it, which is like Joy Fantastique, another song called Overflow, which is a song that came out I think back in May. And then it gets into sort of like the shadow side, like you can call it the negative side of things, where it's like F&L, which is another track where you talk about how you sort of try to make relationship sort of exists when you're outside the bubble of just YouTube. It's like YouTube, but it's also, you gotta get back to everybody else, your friends and everybody else that's in your life, and how you make that fit. And then you get to Push Pull, which is about conflict, and Ceasefire, which is one of my favorites on the album, just in terms of the sound of it, which is kind of like sort of the aftermath of Push Pull, when you've sort of had an argument, but nobody's ready to apologize just yet.
It's still hot.
Yes. Okay. So it takes you through all, like, it's like, to me, it's like a movie in a way. That's the way I thought of it. When I thought of it, I thought I wanted it to sound lush, was the word I kept coming back to. I wanted it to sound big, and I wanted it to sound sort of cinematic. You know.
And you're doing a video to every song, right?
Not every song. I don't have the money for every song. I would like to.
I definitely understand. And right now, I mean, your videos are doing views on YouTube. So what do you plan to do to expand outside of Alexandria?
To me, right now, the main focus is performing more. That seems to be where it kind of clicks with people. Like, I see people say, "Oh, I like the song, and I like this video," but when I notice, like, especially with the Hall of Nights thing, where people really heard the song and they kind of sunk in, it really started.
They connect more.
Yeah, and even with Pride, that was another example too. And with Culture Fest, you know, people seem to really like lock into the whole idea of what like Afro Sensei is.
Because also your music is really like catchy. Like I know we've been around you coming and singing your songs, but they're all just so catchy, and the beats. It's just I really appreciate it because I know the work that you're putting into your music, and not even just the music, but the brand itself. You know, that's very important. So what goes into like the concept when you think about the cover arts for your singles and the album?
Well, I mean, with the album, like I mentioned before, originally I was actually go towards more like a pinup. Like you think of, or like you think of like old Hollywood, like Dorothy Dandridge, Eartha Kitt, even like burlesque models from like that era. But then it started to change more towards like the Asamare sort of image of like just combine, like I said, the masculine and feminine. I wanted, because the last cover was so like, to me, was very like brash and like colorful. And to me, by the time I started making the album, it was still dance music, but everything was coming out like very soft. Like everything had a softer edge to it. So if the music is softened, then the image in my head has to soften in its own way. So that was inspiration for that, because why I asked Jessica, like we had these in the studio, there's like these lilac flowers, and like I had like little shag rug with like rose colored shag rug, and like the background, everything I wanted just kind of have a softer tone to it. And then with the cover art, I wanted to, since the album is about relationships and has to deal with all that sort of the different shades of relationships, I wanted each cover to sort of symbolize that. So when I fall, you have to have like a heart with a key symbol, and Joy Fantastique, these two faces sort of facing off against each other, overflow the same thing, push pull, like they're kind of apart. You know, so.
Yeah, you're very big on symbolism and imagery. How else do you tie that in besides cover art and videos?
They can come in with the lyrics sometimes. To me, on the album, there's a lot of imagery when you talk about a reference to water, earth. You talk about I think it was it's fire. So like a lot of elemental. So the imagery that comes in. Throughout the album, one song called "Wee Hours." To me, you take it on different levels. And the way I'm talking about, it's like a long argument, basically. So I told you like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, the wee hours, quote unquote. But also in the chorus it says, "In the wee hours, we found out who we really are." So it's saying like literally the wee hours, but also the wee hours of like metaphorically saying when everything's going wrong and when everything is not perfect, we find out who we really are. In terms of, do we want to stay together, or do we, or
do we want to separate?
Yeah. So I sort of play with the imagery in that way in terms of lyrical imagery.
So when you're coming up with a song, are you already thinking about those concepts, or it comes along once?
It comes along once. Once I decided I wanted to write like a full album of it, it kind of, I had an idea of it. I think the first song after the initial two may have been "When I Fall." I think that was the one that came after that, and I think. Then I knew I needed another one that was kind of up tempo. So I think "Overflow" came out after that one, back to back, sort of like more of the up tempo kind of sexy sort of songs. And then I needed like the middle section. So I think "Push Pull" came next. That one took a long time because that one went through about 6 different versions. Wow! Like at first it was gonna be like a more like a pop, like new wave, sort of like 80s almost, but it didn't sound like anything, so I put that one aside. Then it was going to be more like a pop punk, sort of like really like super aggressive, but then that didn't make sense either, so then I went to like more like a big anthemic sort of rock song, but then that didn't work.
It didn't work.
Then it was going to be more doo-wop-ish, but then that sounded nice, but didn't really fit the rest of the album. Then finally it went to that version that's on the album. So
wow, can we hear some of these?
I kind of scrapped some of them, I erased some of them, so but the doo-wop will maybe still be around somewhere. So
cool. You might put out a maybe. I
got a few remixes that I haven't put out yet for Joy Fantastique. So one that was at Pride that we did we did. So
So what is going to be your next performance?
I'm not sure right now. I actually have applied to perform at Art Walk. I haven't heard back from them yet. So if not them, there is another Blue Light Lounge is what it's called, coming up next month. So I may perform with that one. Wow. If not those two somewhere, I actually just submitted push pull to South by Southwest the video.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, Kev, that's big.
Yeah.
Hey, you got it. Are you going to South by Southwest?
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, I want to.
Yeah, good. And I think that's a great way to promote your music and promote you as well. And actually, like we were just having a conversation about South by Southwest, and I was telling people, when you go, don't perform, just go and network. If you are going to perform, make sure it's something that's legitimately put on by actual South by Southwest people.
Yeah, I've seen a few like they have South by Southwest. I've saw another site called Music Gorilla has like their own showcases, and so I've looked into a few things. So let's see what happens. So.
Right. Hey, we're hoping, and we will be there to support. I definitely try to make everything that Kel is performing. I tried to make I'm gonna go. I'm gonna make it. I know I missed your performance at Super Dax, and the one at the poetry.
Oh, yeah.
I missed that, but I really be trying to. Every time Kel, I'm like, Kel's performing, so I'm gonna go. So give people an insight of Afro Sensei, like the personal side. We're getting the music. What's something that people don't know about Afro Sensei?
Know about me? I like documentaries. Yeah, I guess to me it's like I'm not sure if I've shown every different side yet. It's like this because this album is more like a straightforward album. Because before that, this album before the other one was more just instrumental stuff.
Right, exactly. It was a lot of just instrumentals, and I mean, you sang a few words here and there, but like now we're here with lyrics.
Yeah,
we're here with something that's a little bit more concrete that people can resonate with and relate to, and that's big.
Yeah,
and that's even with relationships, period, in general. You know what I'm saying? So definitely. So when did the album release?
It's been out. Okay, it came out in June actually.
Oh, okay. All right. And what streaming platforms can they find
Spotify, Tidal, Google Play, pretty much anywhere. Napster, Pandora. So.
So are you receiving residuals back that you have? I mean, of course you invest your time, money, but have you started seeing those residuals come back to you as a yet?
Not yet. A few of the songs have done really well streaming wise. Overflow in particular has done really well streaming wise. When I Fall did pretty good. Joy Fantastique did pretty good. The videos have done really well. So I haven't seen it just yet, but hopefully it'll as a moment. I think to me it'll be maybe a slow climb because I think the more people sort of see me, they'll sort of be more interested in it.
We know what this is.
Yeah.
The more they see you, visibility is definitely key. I think you're one of the few local artists that we have that really goes into like push promoting and marketing themselves, because like if you have a project coming up, you're teasing it. You're like, hey, this is coming. I'm setting this date. This is the cover art for it. So you're constantly putting out content. You're constantly just kind of in people's faces like, I'm an artist and I am here, and a lot of people don't tend to do that.
I think just a lot of times people it's kind of hard to kind of sit down and figure out like how do I do this, quote unquote, because it seems kind of like daunting in terms of like trying to put an album out and have people really kind of try to respond to it. Right. And I think sometimes people think, well, and then of course money is always the issue. Yeah, definitely. So I think it's not just trying to figure out how you can do it in a way that's sort of at least kind of affordable. Maybe you can spend a little bit more and get it back later. Right. But then also just figuring out, and also what works for you. Because sometimes people kind of try to fit into what's going on. Because that can be its own temptation. Because it's easy to sort of follow what everybody else is doing. That's true too. Instead of trying to figure out how can I sort of inject my own sort of personality into it.
How can I be in my own lane and still be myself? Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a difficult process, like a difficult situation, because you're like, I want to get followers, I want to get likes, I want to this, but if you do those things, you kind of bend, and it's like, this ain't me.
Yeah, yeah, because even with the videos, I was, even when I fall, that was kind of like, I mean, I kind of knew what I wanted to do and how to do, but not really, because I had never done the video before. Right. So.
That was your first. So that was
the very first video.
Wow.
That's
really?
That's the very first video. Yeah, I remember I called. Well, yeah, I think I emailed AA in about I think December, like last year, and then asked him about it, and then it took forever. We tried to find. Main thing we had trouble finding a pool because we wanted to try to do it indoor, but we couldn't get one indoor, so we ended up doing one outside, which was very cold in January to get in the pool.
How many takes did it take?
That one took about. That was the first day actually.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was the pool.
Yeah.
So then the second day was all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. So, do you enjoy the video side, coming up with the visuals and the concepts?
I do, because, I mean, to me, a lot of the artists I like growing up, I mean, of course, the music was an important part of what I liked about them, whether that was like Prince or even or like Kanye, old Kanye. You know, to me, a lot of artists made a big impression on me. What artists where it wasn't just about the music, it was also about like the personality behind what they were doing and some of the imagery they were using.
Exactly.
So to me, I do like to come up with just different concepts and also just because you can present. I mean, it depends on what's right for you, because you can present a song and it depends on what's right for the image of the song.
Right.
And if that's because with going back to When I Fall, when I listened to it, to me, I kept sensing like a blue for some reason. So of course it was blue water. So then we went to that, and then we went to the listen to the lyrics. You know, chess. So that came up in the video as well. So
Definitely. So it's really just you. You're your own creative visual. You're your own lyric writer, producer. So you're like this quadruple threat. So how do you balance that out, knowing that you're kind of responsible for everything right now?
It can be tough because, again, like you said, if I have an idea for a song, then it's like, okay, well, I got to make the beat for it most of the time. But that's something, you know, for whatever I do next, I would like to work with more producers around here.
Okay.
And and reach out to them and just see what
hello.
and and see what we could do together. Because part of the reason why I did it in the beginning was because when I first started, I really didn't know anybody in town that was doing music, and people that I did know were doing more was just basically hip hop more so. And that wasn't what I wanted to do for myself. Yeah. So that's why I really just did it probably out of necessity. And I was just because I mean, like I said, I took lessons as a kid, and I knew some music theory, and I just wanted, you know. So the production side and also the recording, that it can take a while, especially with this album, because it was so many vocals. Because I would do the lead vocal, then I would go back and sometimes I would double the lead vocal, and then I would go back and do the backing vocals and do like what I call counterpoint vocals, where it's like there's one vocal happening and then like another vocal happening at the same time, like that layered sort of effect. And then like push pull was one of those where it was like. It was like my own natural vocals and also auto-tune vocals and then like background vocals and all that stuff.
Yeah, all this combined.
Yeah, so I don't know if you listen to Kalila.
No.
Her album Take Me Apart, that really influenced me as far as like the vocals of it, like the way she sort of like weaving all the different vocals and like stacked the vocals and things like that. So.
So who else influences Afro Sensei?
Kalila, Janet was another one. Janet, as far as the way she stacked harmonies and even with the choreography, I would say it's an influence on me and James and Tamika. It was another. I'd say I said Kanye. I said who else? I think in terms of the image, I'd say Grace Jones. She was another influence.
Oh, okay.
The way she sort of played with masculine and feminine, and then also. Earth, Wind and Fire was an influence. Really? A lot of disco, like with Donna Summer, Sylvester.
Because that
there's them, and also even with just as far as the lyric quality, or at least the way they play with lyrics, Kendrick could be one. Just the quality of lyrics. Rhapsody is another one.
I love rap.
Yeah. Then also just Madonna be one. Sort of David Bowie. Cause like the way they would sort of like chameleons, the way they would sort of play with one image and like go to another image and go to another image, and so like
I can see everything that you name. Like, okay, yeah. So what are you listening to right now?
I've listened to a lot of Ari Lennox. Like her album a lot. Moon Boots was like a house group I just found out about. Okay. And also Megan Thee Stallion be one. Rhapsody is another one. Her album just came out, Eve, I think. Yeah. Who else? Try to think. Local Groove is one of the ones that like his music a lot. The way it's aggressive but also melodic.
At the same time,
him and Jay Will does that too really well.
Really well.
Yeah. Really well. Who else? I actually been going back. Sometimes I go through phases. Like last week, I was listening to just a lot of '80s stuff, like Cure and a lot of like Need a Baker and all that stuff like that.
Yeah,
And then
I love
yeah.
Need a Baker.
Then another week it'll be like 90s rock. It'll be all like Nirvana and Green Day and Garbage and all that stuff. So
you keep so that's the great thing about you as an artist too. Like you're not just listening to one genre. You take everything and you pull all those type of things and pull that and make that Afro Sensei. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's good. You know, have that diversity, that openness, because it takes your music to a whole nother level. And so now you got everybody like, I need to listen to this Sensei.
Because to me, sometimes people say it's so different. I don't always catch it because to me, it's just I can hear what it sounds like to me in my head, but I guess when everybody else hears it, they think of like, oh, this is
right.
Yeah.
This is what this reminds me of. This is the feel that I get from this.
Yeah.
So how does that make you feel like when people reacting to your music?
I mean, I like it. It's always a little strange to me. I don't know, just a me thing when people are playing your music and you kind of hear yourself back.
Yeah.
Because I've been living with some of these songs for like 2 years almost.
Wow.
You know, some people hear because I forget sometimes people hearing it for the first time when they react.
Yeah.
So it's like a little disorienting, but it's also obviously it's great that people will like it. Yeah, but it's always a little weird hearing your own voice back to you.
Okay. Yes, I did this.
Yeah.
So you said some of these songs you've been working on for 2 years. So what's the whole overall process of that?
Well, like I said, after I decided it's going to be a whole album, I had since I dropped those 2 songs, I needed another song for Let the Beat because all I had was Let the Beat at that point.
Right.
So I did Can't Hold Us and put the EP out, and then I did the deluxe version with the different remixes and then the other song Pop and the new songs. That while I was doing that, I was starting to like write for the Joy Fantastique, and like I think the most of the writing and like the recording took about 4 months. I think 4.5 months, and then just going back because I was still kind of learning how to really mix too. So I would go back and I listen to it, and I think I would go back and tweak some things, and then hear it again, tweak it again, and then I remember one song Ceasefire actually took a minute to do again too because I had the verses written, but I didn't know the chorus, and so I was getting frustrated, so I just kind of walked out for a second to get some drink, and then I came back. And I had the piano chords, and then I ran through like a synthesizer sound. And when that happened, I was like, "Oh, and that's what it is." And then I wrote it, and then I could sing to it. Yeah.
Cool. So what gets Afro Sensei in his creative mode? What get those creative juices flowing?
Sometimes it's listening to other music. Like for this album in particular, I would go back to the albums I always liked a lot, or songs I always liked a lot. I think it was like I mentioned Kalala was one. I think. Certain songs off Mary's like My Life album was one that I listened to back a lot. Like I'll go back and listen to like why do I keep going back to this song? What is it about this song that I like that I can listen to like years after I've heard it for the first time? So it was a lot of that, like going back to really the stuff that I really was influenced by and asking why does it
stick out to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I definitely can see that.
So it can be that, or sometimes it could just be people watching. Like I'll hear a conversation between 2 people, or I'll hear someone say something, I'll maybe write it down, or I'll hear a melody and I'll make sure to record it into my phone, or
just so you can pick it back up again. So what have you learned about yourself within this entire process of putting this body of work together?
Like I guess, I kind of knew before. I could be a little bit of a perfectionist or be a little obsessive about it. I guess just 'cause in the sense of like, I'll think it's finished and I'll like leave it alone for a few days and I will come back to a song like, you could record that vocal again, or you could change the lyrics a little bit. Being more comfortable being more personal, because even with the first album was After Hours actually, that album, and with those songs, most of those songs I was like writing in characters more so. I was writing like in second and third person, rather than really writing in first person.
Writing first hand.
Yeah.
This is me.
And really with this album, it's semi-autobiographical. It's like in parts of it are just it's embellished, or like it's not totally autobiographical. But this one, I really wanted. I noticed with one song off of the first album called Refuge, it was more of a personal song, and that one seemed to really be easier to write, and also seemed to be just the process was easier overall than trying to write in characters. With this one, I remember talking to another artist around here, Zet Rock, and I said, I want to expand the sound because the first stuff up to this point had been mostly like dance, music, house, or more trap with the last one. And I said, I wanted to kind of expand the sound, just to do more acoustic stuff, which is on the album, like a piano ballad, which is on the album, or like down tempo or different types of music. And I said, I'm good. I'm doing pretty good, like doing the club stuff, like the dance stuff. But with this one, I said I want to tell stories, and I really wanted to be like this one to be like a songwriter. And so that was a challenge, and to really like expand and really go forward as far as with the vocals, like with like When I Think of You, to me that one was one of my favorites in terms of the arrangement. Like it's really like intro, verse, pre-chorus, bridge, like all that stuff putting together. And that took a lot of work. So that was the challenge of like really just trying to like expand and really like move forward in terms of like the lyric writing, in terms of the music, in terms of like the production quality, and then even after it was out, really saying, okay, I'm really going to go forward as far as doing videos and performing, all that other stuff,
You make your own beats. Do you make beats for other people?
I do. I've made, because sometimes I'll come with a beat and I think, well, this doesn't fit for me, or nothing's coming to me in terms of like a melody or any lyrics. But then it may be right for somebody else. So yeah, I do. Actually, I've been working with one artist around here. I Said Rose. Okay. Shout out to I Said Rose. Yeah. We worked on a couple of songs together.
She really sings.
She does, yeah. And she's a good songwriter too. So we've been working together for a little bit. And I worked with another guy. His rap name is Killy J. Real name is Nathan. Okay. And we worked on a few things. He got busy with school for a second, but hopefully we'll get back together and start working again. Because I would like to write for other people or produce for other people.
Oh yeah, so you would like to do songwriting as well? That'd be great.
Yeah.
That's the real bag.
Because to me, in my opinion, like the reason why we don't have more like of a R&B presence is because maybe everybody doesn't necessarily write their own lyrics, or they don't necessarily produce their own music, or they don't necessarily want to sing over the type of beats that people typically sing over right now. With the whole sort of trap soul sort of feel. They want to maybe go more traditional, or however you want to call it.
But you have a slew of beats. I know that you've played for me. I'm just like,
so yeah, well, I actually love that people, or even I would like to help people come up with concepts for videos, things like that too. Because I don't always everything I think of doesn't necessarily work for me, but it can work for somebody else.
Definitely. So how can people get in touch with you? How can people find you?
They can follow me on Facebook at Afro Sensei. Also Instagram again, on Reverb Nation. AfroSensei.com is the official website for Reverb Nation. Twitter, but I'm not as active on Twitter, but definitely Facebook, Instagram. They can email me at afrosensei86@gmail.com. So SoundCloud.
All that. Afro Sensei, you really just need to Google it. He's gonna come up. So who would you like to work with? Whether it be local, national, or
national. Janelle Monáe be a good one.
Oh, I can see that.
Who else? I think D'Angelo be a good one. Learn a lot from him. Because again, that's another one influence in terms of like the different vocals and like how he would like make his vocals sound like almost weird. Almost like that P-Funk influence. Him, Beyonce, of course. Who locally, I think Groove would be a good one. I said I like working with her so far. Jay will be a good one. What's his name? Because his delivery, his first time I heard him, I thought his voice doesn't match his body. Deezy.
Oh, Deezy. It's like what? Because he has his really.
It's that I call that mosh pit energy.
Yes. The different, especially when he performs. Man, so what is one thing that you want to leave the people with before we close out? Any advice or anything of that nature?
As far as advice, I know for me, before I really started to pursue it seriously, as far as doing my own music, it was just the fear of like, first, what people are going to say, and also just the idea of sort of judging yourself as like an artist. Like, my whole thing was everything I did was so poppy. I thought in my head that is it gonna really isn't really going to connect with people, especially around this area. Right. And just at a certain point, you just kind of have to just shut out your own self-doubt or shut out your own, that voice in your head that says it's not good enough, or this isn't going to work. You have to just kind of just push through it, because maybe the first thing you make may actually be trash, but the next thing you make may actually be good. Right. So, but if you don't work through the first stuff, you can't get to the next thing. Right. So
can't never get to the next level. So does it bother you, like, do you ever think about the people who will not accept Afro Sensei, your style, your music, your look?
At times, I mean, it's moments where you kind of get that thing of like even at Super Dex, I was thinking that when walking out, it's like I know it's gonna be 50, 11 rappers and as far as wardrobe wise, it's gonna be fitted cap t-shirt, then me with my wardrobe.
Here I am.
Yeah.
Face beat, nails beat, jewelry, my fishnets.
But I mean, I guess I have moments of that. But then at the same time, at that particular performance, you had people that would dance to the music and doing a whole little line dance to the song. So, so you got to focus on the people that are into it. It was they can, it's human nature to kind of think like, well, they don't like it. So, but you got to focus on the people that do like it and are into it.
Oh, this is my question.
Okay.
So your support system, do you have your support system, people who are supporting you, who are behind your back? Who are those people? How do they influence you and your music? I
would say, I think in the past it was more slightly more insulated, but not really, because at the time, the first person I met that was kind of in the music around here was was Zed Rock. We actually knew each other from school, but not really. But we kind of met it again. Right. So he was one that was supportive in the beginning of when I played him things, and he was like, "Oh, this sounds good," and then also could give constructive criticism, which was important too.
He has a different sound too.
Right.
And I love his music.
Yeah, right. It's like electronic, but it's like down tempo. It's like it's very introspective, and and so that was helpful to me in terms of like improving. Kelvin was one in the beginning too when I met him. We worked together. Actually, we did a video, but it never came out.
Really?
Maybe we can use it for something else in the future. But he was one that was like very encouraging, and just. So he was another artist named Pat Phillips. He's moved around a little bit since then, though. He's like a visual artist. Also just the creator, especially with this album, meeting like you, and also meeting like James and Tamika, and everybody that's been involved with the performances and been involved with videos. That's been very helpful, because I wouldn't have had anybody in the videos if they.
That's true too. That's true.
Yeah.
So it expands, and that's a great thing. The support system is really great.
Yeah.
To have.
I think that's another thing. Just don't be afraid to ask. Because a lot of times people are waiting to kind of be involved in something,
to use their talent.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Is kind of don't get over that fear of sort of like not being afraid to ask people if they will help you out.
Definitely.
But even in terms of the wardrobe too, this jacket is locally made by Miss Geneva. And
oh wow, she made this.
Yeah,
this is beautiful. I love it.
No.
Yeah, she made.
And she made that, and then even this jewelry is locally from Cow's Creation. So.
Okay, yes.
So, and then also Petra, she made my jewelry for when I've also just know one person, you meet another person, and just you kind of develop all that. So but yeah, I think that's the big thing is like you kind of just asking for help and just saying, hey, do you know somebody that does this, or would you want to be a part of this? And
that's a great thing. I'm glad that local people are here to even provide wardrobe, jewelry, and everything,
and makeup. To shout to Sugar.
Okay,
and,
Sugar.
And Dreadlock Show for the hair. So
yes. And you also sometimes you get your nails by
Amber, yes, and they were later, yes.
See, so here we got all these local people supporting and playing like different roles. You may think that your role is small, but it helps and pushes on and adds character and things of that nature. So never be afraid to support the people that are in your own backyard, and also people that are outside of here. Make sure to support as well. So, but again, make sure you check out the album. Where can they find it again?
Pretty much everywhere you can get music at Tidal, Spotify, Google Play, Pandora, so YouTube actually.
All right, so check out those videos, check out the album, just follow and get into Afro Sensei. He is really here to stay. So what is last thing we're gonna go? What is the future for Afro Sensei?
Well, I would immediate future, I would hope would be more performing outside of town, like whether that's in different cities or even in different states.
Yeah.
More music. Hopefully, I would like to do actually for this album. I would like to like remix every track.
Okay.
And put like a remix album, because actually going back to Kalila again, she did it with Take Me Apart.
Yeah.
And all the remixes were really great with different producers and different like sounds for different songs. So I like to do that actually for this one with some local producers. So besides that, hopefully more performances and more music and videos and stuff. So
and everything else. So again, get into Afro Sensei, and we're out.